Welcome to 9 Bob Note with Paul Isles-Rush and Ken Moss.
Hello everybody, welcome to 9 Bob Note. I am Paul Isles-Rush.
You've slowed it down this week, and I am Ken Moss.
It was a distinct effort. Ken, what are we on today?
Queer as folk. Now, bear in mind this is a gay podcast. I'm hoping that the gays will know what queer as folk is, and it won't need too much of an introduction.
You would hope so.
You would hope so. This 1999 series by Russell T Davies, a television god, I think it's fair to say. We have discussed it before in various arenas. It's quite personal to me and you because it was around the time when we were doing the circuit at everybody's university. I seem to remember either watching it or discussing bits of it at Jackie Hornby's uni in Hull before or after, possibly during, we'd been to Spiders. If Spiders is still there in Hull,
check it out.
But anyway, yeah. It's more an esoteric question. For you, how much of a thing was it at the time?
It was a really big thing, especially because at the time when it came out, I wasn't out. And it was kind of a tester because that kind of thing hadn't been on TV before. You know, there'd been the occasional film and documentaries and stuff. But as a mainstream drama that was on Channel 4 and people actually watched, it wasn't tucked away at 11:30 on a Thursday night. So it's kind of a good way of measuring people's reaction and seeing how do people respond to the gays. I mean, the gay characters in it, or the majority of the gay characters in it, were largely sociopaths with no redeemable qualities. So it didn't paint us in a great light. But it was about the scene, the going out Canal Street was a real place and is a real place where gay people get together. There's the clubbing scene and all of that. It did go on. It wasn't a fantastical exaggeration of things. And yeah, I mean, we've discussed it before. So the characters may not have been likable, but there are people like that. They are based on real people. So yeah, it was good. And we watched it again quite recently for one of your many other podcasts.
A myriad of television and archive podcasts, yes.
Extra Moss Experiment, check it out. And it was really good to go back and watch it again. And I enjoyed it.
See, it's got a special place in my heart. It didn't convert me to the cause. I still don't pray at that particular church. But being swept along, we were at precisely the right age, really, to fully appreciate that, I think. I mean, I remember watching that. I was utterly gripped for 8 weeks. The memory cheats. It was only when we went back to watch it recently that they were only half-hour episodes. Yeah. I was quite convinced they were 50-minute things, but there were scenes in it I can still picture clear as day, 20 years later, having never watched it since. And there were issues raised in it that straight people didn't think about. They didn't question, the basic things like the missionary position. That's not... It does sound ridiculous saying it now. But at the time, I remember people having the discussion. Do gays have sex like that? Yes, it does go on, apparently. And then, because you were living in Manchester, you weren't living there at the time, were you?
I was in Lancaster.
But then, of course, within a couple of years, you were living in an apartment in Manchester. And we went out on Canal Street, and there was a definite vibe about it. I've not been to Canal. Probably the last time I went was with you 20 years ago. So we're probably due a 9 Bob Note on tour revisit.
Oh, yes.
But I do remember one of my friends, David Foster, God bless you, he's long since departed, but he said that Queer as Folk to an extent ruined Canal Street. And it's something that Simon Exton's called queer watching, a term I would never dare use. I'm still afraid of the word queer. It's got connotations that I don't think a straight man should use. Did you find that?
Yeah, there was an element because it was like that down Canal Street, that, and people saw these these guys on the TV going out and these amazing clubs and pubs and the drag queens and everyone looked fabulous and all the men were really good looking and it sort of evoked it started like a tourist movement. So you get people to go down queer watching, I suppose, because the women would go down and say, oh yeah, but the men are so good looking down there, we can just go. And you'd also get we go down there because we feel safe, because they're not going to we're not going to get pounced on by all the men. And then, but you start to get a lot of hen parties and stuff like that. And yes, we talk about inclusivity and things like that. And yeah, I don't think that there should be places that you can only come in if you're gay. We went out down there, and there would be a group of us, 90% of us were straight.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a problem. But it's when you get the people who go just to be, to be part of it. And it took it over a bit. And there was also an element that particularly straight women would go down and, think it was appropriate and think that they were allowed to grope gay men and, rip their shirts open and stuff and kiss them and stuff, which if you're looking at it in the cold light of day, it's assault. But,
well, I would love to see the reaction if I went down Lesbian Street and started. I've gone down Lesbian Street to look at all these really attractive women, and then I love give us your tits. I don't think that'd go down terribly. I think I might find myself. So I wouldn't dream of even attempting to be laughy jokey about anything like that. But it is. Why is it okay to do it to men?
Yeah,
I'm not. It's never been. I mean, I've been. If we want to go down that particular road, I have been assaulted many times on nights out in my life, but I just brush it off. It's not. I'm not saying that it's right. It doesn't particularly offend me, but you can't assume that it's not going to offend somebody else.
No. It just like I don't know, a woman's bum. I mean, obviously nobody would do it now. But let's say in the early 80s,
yes,
it was considered okay. It wasn't okay to do it, and there would be people who would be really offended by it. But you just sort of took not you, certainly not me. But anyway, the people who did it, they took a risk, and it's that kind of thing that you don't know. So somebody who comes up and gropes you in a pub, they don't know how you're going to react. They don't know what your history is. And it's assault. Although we've veered off.
Wildly off topic.
We'll get back to queer as folk at some point. But I read a tweet today from someone I follow on Twitter who went to a festival or something this weekend, and he was wearing a kilt. And he really took issue with the amount of people who assume that it's okay
to lift it up and have a look.
To lift it up, to put their hands up it, to just ask him. Whoever goes up to someone in a pub or in any place and ask them what underwear they're wearing or if they are wearing underwear, and then to say, oh, well, it's none of your business. Oh, well, I'm going to check. And, like, what the hell? Again,
it is wildly off topic. You've just put me in mind there of a Sean Locke routine. Another one taken way, way too soon. I love Sean Locke. But he said it's like people with glasses, people will just say, yeah, can I try your glasses on? And they'll just whip them off your face, whether you say it or not. They'll just, how can you see out of these? You're blind. You wouldn't go up to somebody in a wheelchair and just tip them out and say, give us a go on your wheelchair.
He made a very good point.
Oh, Sean Locke, one of the few comedians who made me cry with laughter. I'm really sad that he's gone. But dragging slightly off topic, dragging back, for the first time ever, I got made feel uncomfortable the other week. I was just having a drink in a pub, and someone I've known a while, a friend of mine, mid-20s, said something, and it made me feel, she was with her mates, and said something, and it made me feel uncomfortable. I mean, really uncomfortable. It was drifting into an area I didn't want to go down. And it was clearly hilarious to all them, but it was as if I was the one, if I'd have said, look, enough now, that I would have been the one in the wrong.
Yeah.
And it's my very, very first experience of that. So I think until you've actually experienced it, the full weight of things being a bit inappropriate, I don't know. We're not down Canal Street anymore, Toto. We are.
No.
I don't know where we are. Oh, Diamond Lil. Do you remember Diamond Lil? If anybody remembers Diamond Lil from Canal Street or Manchester, do write in, because we would love to know what happened to him. I seem to remember being in some... We'd run out of places to have a drink.
In the Thompson's Arms.
Is that what it was? I seem to remember it being under a hotel or some massive skyscraper thing.
A car park.
That'll... We knew where to drink in those days.
Yes. If it wasn't even a building, it was just the ground floor of the car park.
No, and I wandered in to address the call of nature, and there was this little old gay man. I think he was not dragged up, but I think he was made up to a point. Brace yourself in front of Diamond Lil as he whipped out the old chap and stood in the urinal next to me, and it was that has gone down in history. I think I phoned you up at work one day and said,
Yes.
he's Ken Diamond.
I was like, yes, this is very important. I need to take this.
But yes, have you been to Canal Street recently?
No, not. Oh, actually, we went to Pride, and I thought it was quite recent, but Stuart told me that it was 6 years ago because Danny Minogue was performing. So we got tickets and we went, and we just got 1 day tickets. And we went to see Danny Minogue. And Canal Street's different at Pride, which we've discussed. We discussed it. We actually had a really good time. But then a couple of years ago, our friends from America, Mark and Paul, came over.
Yes, splendid chaps.
Yes, yeah. And we went out to Manchester for the day. So we got the train up and did a bit of shopping, and then we said, well, we've got to go down. We've got to go down Canal Street. And yeah, it was fairly bad. It was, I think, a Tuesday afternoon. So, it was there was no DJs or anything like that on. It was just there was this one point this person of indeterminate gender came out of one of the pubs as we were walking and started ranting at us for no reason. So 3 of us walked off, but Mark was like really intrigued by this person and he was just like trying to engage them in conversation. And well, their name was Rachel. I think it was a boy in drag, or it might have been, a transgender woman or whatever. They said, do you know who I am? But the makeup was clearly still on from last night. And
right.
They clearly hadn't been home from last night. I don't know if they'd found this pub that was open and just carried on drinking or whatever they were doing. And he had said to Mark, you better watch out. I'm the hardest bitch on this street. And then just walked off. Mark was like, strange. But yeah, that was our last experience of Canal Street. So
I love the Texans because they've got this sort of bewildered awe about Britain in general. And on a Facebook video a couple of weeks back, there was this. There's been a spate of them recently where American girls have gone on making videos about how they live in Britain now and the differences between. And this one girl from wherever she was from, she'd married an Englishman, and he came home from a funeral wrecked.
Right.
And she was a recovering alcoholic. So I don't drink. I'm an alcoholic, so I don't touch it. And I thought, oh my God, is this man an alcoholic as well? But no, he's just British.
Yeah, that's what we do at funerals.
That's the biggest compliment I've ever heard from an American. Yeah. But I do see this. At your wedding on the way home, on the drive home, we stopped at a brewery and a pub on the way home, and they were just, how can you still be drinking? You're always on this. You never stop, you English. Well, no, we don't.
we have nothing else to do.
So having veered wildly off Canal Street, I'm going to steer us back to Canal Street and Queer as Folk.
Yes.
I get the feather boas out and see, feather or not, Queer as Folk, big thing. It's not really for me to open the scoring on this because I'll defer to the the gays first.
I think this is, particularly at the time, it was really, really something big. It was something that, as you said, everybody watched. Most people remember it. And it did open people's eyes and it changed attitudes. And I think it gave gay people the confidence. So, when you talk about in Russell T Davies dramas, there's always the gay walking down the street with the music playing.
You can do something absolutely appalling. The music strikes up and...
Yeah, but it kind of made us all feel like we could be that person, and it definitely helped, I think, a lot of people to come out or to realise who they were. So, and it's still relevant.
Yeah,
years later. So I am going to crown it with 5 feather boas.
Again, got to concur, even looking at it from an outsider's perspective, really. It was a landmark piece of TV, and it did open the floodgates on somewhat slowly, but over the years, where there'd never been gay dramas and gay television before, they did start appearing to varying degrees of success. Metrosexuality, I'm looking at you.
But is one person.
Simon won't thank me for that. But no, it was a big deal, and yes, 5 out of 5.
Excellent. And maybe next time we talk about it, we'll actually talk about the series.
I don't really think that it's any great surprise that for this screening, Queens, I'm going to recommend that you all go out and watch Queer as Folk. Although not the second series, I believe that. I don't remember much about it, but I don't remember being blown away. I don't think Russell T Davies wanted to do it.
No, I think he was kind of forced into it. It was only a couple of episodes.
I seem to remember 2 or 3, yeah.
Just
watch series 1, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we'll call that a day, but we'll be back next week with more tangents and curveballs. We'll see you next week.
Bye, kids.
Bye.
Nine Bob Note featured Paul Isles-Rush and Ken Moss. Title music was by Mark Scheiman, and the program was produced by Maverick Productions. For more information, please visit maverickproductionsuk.blogspot.com or find us on social media.